Welcome to GPPmaster.com Week 10 Elite in Value. We are back at this desk with the window today and not in the fancy studio because we're on a roll from this desk. Last week was just rocking it awesome. We nailed it on this video. Our members made great money. I think I cashed in 77% of my lineups, and that's what we want here. This is a big week. We have, and I'm just looking here, I'm trying to get some light for you guys. We have, hold on, bear with me. We have Millionaire Maker this week with $5 million in prizes. We have a $4 GPP with $2 million in prizes. And we have a $44 GPP with $1.25 million in prizes. That is $8.25 million in prizes, plus 2 qualifiers for the World Championships. It is a massive week, so let's get going. Let's keep the momentum up. I hope you guys were on our strategy session live. We had a great turnout on Wednesday. We had a great panel. Me, Willie, Nick Morgan, Bill Enright. We really had about as good an expert panel as you can get. So if you did not participate live, it is now on the demand on gppmaster.com. So let's start with quarterbacks. I'm going to be playing 10 quarterbacks in 10 lineups this weekend, like I say I do often. And some I'm going to play in more than one share, meaning I'll play them 2 or 3 times. So let's just whip through them real quick, Bill. I'm going to try to keep this video short enough here. I know this one could run on a little bit today. Quarterbacks. So first of all, Rodgers, Mariota, 49.5 over/under. Vegas likes that game. They like points to be scored. Aaron Rodgers is starting to play well. His team is starting to get healthy. Randall Cobb is back, and he is healthy. Starks is coming back this week, and he is healthy, which will open up some opportunities to throw the ball when they can actually finally run the ball with a running back. Mariota has been on fire. Obviously, Rodgers at 7,600, Mariota at 5,700. I am definitely going to play Aaron Rodgers in 2 or 3 shares this weekend, 2 or 3 lineups within my budget. 20th pass defense, Tennessee, big total, and looking forward to matching him up with obviously a pairing of probably 3 times Nelson Adams, Nelson Cobb, Adams Cobb, or possibly just once with Nelson, once with Cobb, once with Adams. Mariota, I think, is worth a shot this weekend in one lineup. Tough to who to pair him with. You could either pair him with Kendall Wright, Rashad Matthews, or Delaney Walker. I'm going to go with Walker or Wright because I think everybody's going to kind of jump on the Matthews bandwagon after last weekend. Next game, Drew Brees, Trevor Siemian, Denver, New Orleans. This is an interesting one. Pay attention. Over under 49. So Vegas again thinks there's going to be points. Breeze seems like a no-brainer, right? But Denver, number 1 pass defense in the league, number 1 pass defense in the NFL. But last week got eaten alive because they were missing Talib. They were missing the 2 shutdown corners. So you got to pay attention to gppmaster.com on Sunday and see are Denver's cornerbacks playing. Because if they're not, then Breeze obviously is a good play at home, and everyone's going to be on Michael Thomas. I love Michael Thomas. Every week I've had him. I've said it on here, but I kind of would probably go to Cooks if the shutdown corners are not playing this weekend. And Breeze at home, we know what he can do, so keep an eye on that. Trevor Siemian's been awful, but he had that 1 week where he went off. Look, he still has, in my opinion, 2 of the top 10 receivers in the NFL in Sanders and Thomas. He is playing the 32nd ranked pass defense in the NFL. That's why the total's so high. So I will absolutely be taking Siemian in a kind of go for it all millionaire GPP lineup this weekend alongside Sanders and Thomas in a double stack. Next game, another sleeper. Tampa versus Chicago. Jay Cutler back, beat Minnesota. Alshon Jeffrey healthy. Tampa Bay 27th against the pass. Not a good pass defense. Little weary of the over-under there because they went from 48 to 45. That might be because Mike Evans' concussion. Obviously, you have Mike Evans on the other side, but you got to keep an eye on that. But I am going to go out there with Cutler and Alshon. The one thing you want to be careful about there is it's also a great running matchup for Chicago, so Howard should be able to run the ball. Tom Brady, I've said it, and I'll keep saying it until it doesn't work. Tom Brady will have at least one lineup with me every week, at least, until he proves me otherwise. Yes, it's Seattle. Yes, it's a tough D, but he ate them alive in the Super Bowl. They're not the same team, okay? And until he proves me otherwise, you can't fade him, not in a week like this. So I also think it's tough to run on Seattle. So, Brady's going to throw the ball 40, 35, 40 times on Sunday Night Football, and, you're going to have to be there at 7,400, over under 49. Matt Ryan, a little worrisome about Matt Ryan this weekend, but I'm not going to fade him. You've got to have him in one lineup. Over under is 50. Okay. Eagles have a pretty good pass defense. That's what you got to be careful about. It's a little bit of a trap, in my opinion, in that regard, and you could easily overpay. I mean, because Orion at 7,300, Julio Jones at 90, whatever he's at, 9,800 on DraftKings, and man, that is a major, major chunk of salary spent on those two guys, and if it doesn't work, so we'll come back to who to stack him with a little bit later as we get to the receivers. So I'll have a share of Ryan. I love Big Ben. Big Ben came back last week. He was rusty. By the end of the game, he was on fire. Okay, he's $6,800. Antonio Brown, under $9,000. You're never going to see that. Under $9,000. Gotta go. Big Ben, Antonio Brown. I know I will be. Dallas is good against the pass, but not great. Much better against the run. Big game potential. You could even do a double stack there with Bell, with Le'Veon Bell. Couple one-offs here. Cam Newton, 6,800. Cam's always a good bet to go off. I think Olsen has a big week this week. Middle of the road pass defense on the other side. I think, it's okay to have Cam with one lineup, maybe with Benjamin, maybe with Olsen, maybe with both. Phillip Rivers, I think he'll have a lot of play this week. $6,700. Miami has the 9th pass defense in the NFL and the 32nd running defense, 30th running defense. So, again, Melvin Gordon to me is the better play there. Same with Carson Palmer. Total over under a 48. He's pretty cheap. I do like J.J. Nelson. We'll come back to that a lot. But I think I'd rather play the receiver and sit out the quarterback because this is going to be the David Johnson show. Again, this is going to be the David Johnson show. We'll come back to him at running back. Worst two, most disappointing, awful quarterbacks of the season play each other. Bortles, Osweiler. But at some point, Bortles and Robinson are going to connect, and they're going to go off. 3 touchdowns, 200 yards, kind of off. Houston's pass defense is number 2, so it's a risky week to do it. But when it happens, I want to be there, so I will have a share of Bortles. Worried a little bit about the Houston D, but the game's at home, and that's one you kind of throw out there. I think you'll see a lot of people go to Kirk Cousins. I know Minnesota's a tough defense. They put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but Cousins has been awesome. I'm going to just go with Jamison Crowder there and ride a receiver and fade Cousins. He's cheap at $5,400. The Vikings can be passed on. They have been. I just don't see him throwing 4 or 5 touchdowns in that game necessarily. So top 5, Big Ben, Matt Ryan, Brady, Simeon, and Cutler. On to receivers. Who are you going to put with those guys? Trying to speed this along here. So, of course, we're going to stack Rodgers with Cobb, Rodgers with Nelson, Rodgers with Adams in some form 2 or 3 times. We're going to stack Mariota with me. It's going to be with Walker and Wright. Fade Matthews. I'm going to stack Breeze with Cooks. Fade Thomas. Risky, but I feel like against Denver, this is the week to do it. Again, only if Denver's D-backs are, at least one of them are out. Simeon, I said, absolutely a double stack with Sanders and Thomas. It'll afford you room to afford other players because Simeon's cheap, and those guys are only $6,800 and $6,700. Cutler with Jeffrey, absolutely. Big Ben with Brown, absolutely. Brady, for me, this is a game I'm stacking him with Edelman because he got him the ball in the end zone like I said he would last week because he's his buddy. Okay, I could see Edelman having 10 points from PPR, 1 point of reception on DraftKings, half a point on FanDuel, 10-point PPR this weekend, and a touchdown. He even could have a couple runs, and he tends to be Seattle's weakness. That's kind of slot short over the middle, as we saw in the Super Bowl, obviously. Let's see. A couple more here. I said Cam and Benjamin. A couple other receivers. I love J.J. Nelson. He's coming on. He's cheap. Again, I'm a J.J. Nelson guy. More than I'm going to ride Palmer, I'm going to have J.J. Nelson in some lineups. Same with Jordan Matthews, okay, in that game because I think there'll be a lot of airing it out in that Falcons-Eagles game. And Jordan Matthews should have a PPR field day, much like Edelman. And as I said, Kelvin Benjamin in there as well. Top 5, Antonio Brown, Sanders and Thomas, Jeffrey, Julio Jones, J.J. Nelson. But again, I also think you can stack Sanu and the tight end Hooper for Atlanta. We'll come back to tight ends in a minute. So let's get on the running back. Okay. So I said it before. San Francisco has given up 9 100-yard rushers in a row, 9 weeks in a row, and some close to 200 yards. Okay. David Johnson is absolutely the focal point of this game, of this week. You cannot, I don't care if he's now 98% in GPPs. He is a must play in lineups. San Francisco cannot stop the run, and David Johnson should run wild. And if he doesn't, then you went down knowing you at least did the right thing. Melvin Gordon, same thing. I know he had a big week last week, so he's kind of going to be popular. But people are going to have to choose between David Johnson, Zeke Elliott, Le'Veon Bell, and Gordon at the top there. And Gordon's the cheapest of the 4, and Miami cannot stop the run either. I love Zeke. I said it. I never fade Zeke. The only time I would fade Zeke is to take Johnson and Gordon here. And I think Bell, I like Bell in a few shares. I like him with Big Ben in a lineup because I think they'll throw him the ball. Dallas is pretty good, pretty stout against the run, 6-run defense. So a few bargains. Chris Ivory, 4 fumbles in 4 weeks. That is usually a recipe for disaster. But the guy ran like a machine last week, and Houston cannot stop the run. 28th run defense. So if he's playing, risky that he sits out, doesn't get played because of the fumbles, but worth keeping an eye on or trying somewhere in a tournament. Jonathan Stewart versus Kansas City. Kansas City, 27th run defense. They stop the pass. They do not stop the run. So the way to beat them is on the ground. Howard, as I said, 25th run defense of Tampa Bay. And then a couple real sleepers, right? I like Devontae Freeman, of course, against the Eagles, but the 2 real sleepers here I'll throw out for you guys, along with Ivory. Ronnie Hillman, and it's risky because he might carry the ball 2 times, but Ronnie Hillman gets stronger every year for the last 4 years as the year goes on. He is explosive. He can have a 200-yard all-purpose day, and he's starting to become the number 1 guy quietly in Minnesota. He is cheap. Cheap. I think 3,500 on DraftKings. And Rob Kelly is the starting running back in Washington. Now, this guy is turning on the Jets. Again, Minnesota, tough run defense. That's the only thing there. But you'll own him with probably 2% ownership. And the guy has a potential to score 2 touchdowns at 150 yards. Quickly, we're going to go to tight end. So I like Olsen if you're going to pay off the 5,900. But to me, this is a week to stay low on the money on the tight ends. Tight ends, defense. Pay down so you can afford to have your stacks at receiver and quarterback and David Johnson. So, other than Olsen, Ertz, next on ladder, 3,700, should eat up Atlanta. Miller against Tampa, same thing, 3,600, pretty good play. Cameron Brate, 3,500 against Chicago in that game. I like Cameron Brate, but here's my little sleeper, 3,100 bucks. Hooper, replacing Jacob Tamme, who's injured. Hooper can score from anywhere in the field. Matt Ryan loves his tight ends. That's a 50-plus point over-under game. And I see Hooper scoring a touchdown and 75 yards minimum in that game, and he is cheap. So he'll be in a bunch of my lineups. And even cheaper, Henry. If Hunter Henry is back and healthy and no injury at all, no injury designation at $3,000, you got to love him in that game against the Dolphins. Defense, I am rolling with the Jaguars at 2,300 because I said you got to stay cheap. Okay? I'm rolling with the Chargers, 2,900. The Jets at 2,800 and the Skins at 3,000. I do like the Skins against Minnesota at home. Defensively, I see that game going down on the lower scoring side and a couple turnovers. So that is it. Hopefully you guys all win. This is a big week. Take it home, man. Let's make it happen and stay with us for updates all weekend.